From the Prelude, Book 1, Childhood and School Time by William Wordsworth. Was it for this that one, the fairest of all rivers, loved to blend his murmurs with my nurse's song, and from his alder shades and rocky falls, and from his thoughts and shallow scent of voice, that followed along my dreams? For this didst thou, O dove, when travelling o'er the green plains, near my sweet birthplace didst thou beauteous dream, my ceaseless music through the night and day, which with its steady cadence tempering our human waywardness compose my thoughts, to more than infant softness giving me, among the fretful dwellings of mankind, a knowledge dim earnest of the calm that nature breathes among the hills and groves, when having left his mountains to the task of Cockermouth that beauteous river came, behind my father's house he passed close by, along the margin of a terrace walk. He was a playmate whom we dearly loved. Oh, many a time have I, a 5 years child, a naked boy in one delightful rill, and little Milrace severed from his stream, made one long bathing of a summer's day, bask in the sun and plunged and bask in again, alternate all the summer's day of coast, o'er the sandy fields slipping through grooves of yellow grunsel, or when crag and hill, the woods and distant Skiddaws' lofty height, were bronzed with the deep radiance, stood alone beneath the sky, as if I had been born on Indian plains, and for my baths shut had run abroad and wanton to sport, a naked savage in the thunder shower. Fair seed time had my soul, and I grew up, fostered alike by beauty and my fear, much favored in my birthplace, and no less in that beloved vale to which ere long I was transplanted. Well I call to mind 'twas at an early age ere I had seen 9 summers, when upon the mountain's slope the frost and breath of frosty wind had snapped the last autumnal crocus. 'Twas my joy to wander half the night among the cliffs and the smooth hollows where the woodcocks ran along the open turf, in thought of wish that time my shoulder all with spring is hung. I was a fell destroyer on the heights, scudding away from snare to snare I plied my anxious visitation, hurrying on, still hurrying onward. Moon and stars were shining o'er my head. I was alone, and seemed to be a trouble to the peace that was among them. Sometimes it befell in these night wanderings that a strong desire o'erpowered my better reason, and the bird, which was the captive of another toils, became my prey. And when the deed was done, I heard among the solitary hills low breathings coming after me, and sounds of undistinguishable motion, steps almost as silent as the turf they trod, nor less in springtime, when on southern banks the shining sun had from his knot of leaves decoyed the primrose flower, and when the vales and wood were warm, was I a planter then in the high places on the lonesome peaks, wherever among the mountains and the winds the mother bird had built her lodge to mend mean, though mean, my object and inglorious at third end, was not ignoble. Oh, when I have hung above the raven's nest by knots of grass, and half-inch fissures in the slippery rock, but ill-sustained and almost, as it seemed, suspended by the blast which blew amain, shouldering the naked crag at the time, while on the perilous ridge I hung alone. With what strange utterance did the loud dry wind blow through my ears? The sky seemed not a sky of earth, and with what motion moved the clouds? The mind of man is framed even like the breath and harmony of music. There's a dark, invisible workmanship that reconciles discordant elements and makes them move in one society army, that all the terrors, all the early miseries, regrets, vexations, lassitudes, that all the thoughts and feelings which have been infused into my mind should ever have made up the calm existence that is mine when I am worthy of myself. Praise to the end. Thanks likewise for the means, but I believe that nature oftentimes, when she would frame a favored being from his earliest dawn of infancy, doth open out the clouds, as at the touch of lightning, seeking him with gentlest visitations, not the less, though haply aiming at the self-same end, does it delight her sometimes to employ severer interventions, ministry more palpable, and so she dealt with me. One evening surely I was led by her. I went alone into a shepherd's boat, a skiff that to a willow tree was tied, within a rocky cave its usual home. 'Twas by shores of Patterdale or Vale, wherein I was a stranger thither come, a schoolboy traveller at the holidays, for travelled from the village inn alone. No sooner had I sight of this small skiff, discovered thus by unexpected chance, than I unloosed her, tethered, and embarked. The moon was up, the lake was shining clear among the hoary mountains from the shore. I pushed the stuck and oars and struck again. In cadence, and my little boat moved on, even like a man who walks with stately step. Though bent on speed, it was an act of stealth and troubled pleasure, not without the voice of mountain echoes did my boat move on, leaving behind her still on either side small circles glittering idly in the moon, until they melted all into the track of sparkling light. A rocky steep uprose above the cavern of the willow tree, and now as it suited one who proudly rode, with his best skill I fixed a steady view upon the top of that same craggy ridge, the bound of the horizon, for behind was nothing but the stars and the grey sky. She was an elfin pinnace lustily. I dipped my oars into the silent lake, and as I rose upon the stroke, my boat went heaving through the water like a swan, went from behind that craggy steep till then, the bound of the horizon, a huge cliff, as if with voluntary power in instinct. Upreared its head I struck, then struck again, and growing still in stature, the huge cliff rose up between me and the stars, and still, with measured motion like a living thing, strode after me. With trembling hands I turned, and through the silent waters stole my way back to the cavern of the willow tree, there in her mooring place I left my bark, and through the meadows homeward went with grave and serious thoughts, and after I had seen that spectacle for many days my brain worked with the dim and undetermined sense of unknown modes of being in my thoughts. There was a darkness, call it solitude, or blank desertion of familiar shapes, of earthly objects, images of tree, of sea or sky, no colors of green fields, but huge and mighty forms that do not live. Like living men move slowly through the mind by day, and wear the trouble of my dreams. Wisdom and spirit of the universe, the soul that art the eternity of thought, that give us two forms and images of breath and everlasting motion, not in vain. By day or starlight, thus from my first dawn of childhood didst thou intertwine for me the passions that build up our human soul, not with the mean and vulgar works of man, but with thy objects, with enduring things, with life and nature purifying thus the elements of feeling and of thought, and sanctifying by such discipline both pain and fear, until we recognize a grandeur in the beatings of the heart. Nor was this fellowship vouchsafed to me with distinct kindness in November days, when vapors strolling down the valleys made a lonely scene more lonesome among woods. At noon and mid the calm of summer nights, when by the margin of the trembling lake, beneath the gloomy hills I homeward went, in solitude such intercourse was mine. It was mine among the fields both day and night, and by the waters all the summer long, and in the frosty season when the sun was set invisible for many a mile. The cottage windows through the twilight blazed. I heeded not the summer's happy time. It was indeed for all of us to me. It was a time of rapture clear and loud. The village clock told 6. I wheeled about, proud and exulting like an untired horse that cares not for its home. All should with steel. We hissed along the polished ice and games, confederate imitative of the chase, and woodland pleasures thus resounding on, the pack loud bellowing and the hunted hare. So through the darkness and the cold we flew, and not a voice was idle with the din. Meanwhile the pericles rang aloud, the leafless trees and every icy crag tinkled like iron, while the distant hills into the tumult sent an alien sound of melancholy not unnoticed, while the stars eastward were sparkling clear, and in the west the orange sky of evening died away. Not seldom from the uproar I retired into a silent bay or sportively glanced sideway, leaving the tumultuous throng to cut across the image of a star that gleamed upon the ice, and oftentimes, when we had given our bodies to the wind, and all the shadowy banks on either side came sweeping through the darkness, spinning till the rapid line of motion, then at once have I, reclining back upon my heels, stopped short yet till the solitary cliffs will by me, even as if the earth had rolled with visible motion her diurnal round. Behind me did they stretch in solemn train, feebler and feebler, and I stood and watched till all was tranquil as a dreamless sleep. A presence of nature in the sky,